Punk music is arguably the most politically charged genre alongside hip-hop and folk. While a few subgenres of punk don't have anything to do with politics, some of the bands in that genre will often have political lyrics that can be worked with. We all know that politics and music are the perfect combination, like bread and butter, so I want to focus more on Screamo, better known as Scrams for terminally online music nerds. It's common to see many Screamo bands incorporate political lyrics that address similar topics to those found in 80s hardcore punk. At the same time, the popularity of pop punk and emo was coming up, while so many Screamo bands despise. If you don't believe me, listen to Orchid, Reversal of Man, Amygdala, United Nations, Shin Guard, and Majority Rule. Politics and Screamo are still relevant to this day, but I'm not going to talk about the history of it, but I'm going to talk about one band. One band that took politics way too seriously that dared to rage against the machine of Screamo. They're unavailable on streaming service, no interviews, and they've been gone since the mid-2000s. I give you Yaphet Kotto. Before 1996, Casey Watson and Magdalena were originally in a band together called Stable. It is hard to know what Stable was about or what they sounded like, but we do know that both were guitarists and vocalists in that band. They disbanded in 1996, leading Casey and Mag to form another band called Yaphet Kotto, adding Luke Clemens as a drummer and Pat Crowley as the bassist. That's where the story of the band begins. Yaphet Kotto was formed in 1996 in Santa Cruz, California. They originally got their name from the famous actor, Yaphet Kotto obviously, famously from Blue Collar and Alien. They chose that name because Magdalena was fascinated by it, as he was a fan of the actor or probably a fan of Alien. Like, come on, who doesn't like Alien? No wonder why you don't hear that band name. They should have chosen movie titles like Misfits or White Zombie. It is no different for having a band name with a famous person, just like the powerful in this band, Charles Bronson, who got his name from a famous actor, Charles Bronson. While they were just starting, Luke Clemens left the band the same year they were formed, as he was to play in another band. They signed to Abolition Records, hired new drummer Paul Cameron in 1997, and a year later, they would record and release their first project, self-titled, or as fans like to call it, The Killer Was in the Government Blankets EP. There isn't much information about this EP, but it was recorded before the band's debut album, and the sound quality is not very good, so you can't even understand half the lyrics on this EP. On the bright side, it did have lyrics if you bought this EP. After the release, Paul Cameron was kicked out and hooked up with Scott Batiste as they headed out on tours where they would perform together. They recorded all 4 tracks to release their debut album later that year and finished in early 1999. They released their first album, The Killer Was in the Government Blankets, in 1999. The LP, of course. The elements of Screamo and post-hardcore characterized the sound of the album. Some of the songs contain elements of clean singing and post-rock that were truly ahead of their time in the 90s. The lyrical content of this album has a lot of political topics. It discusses racism, imperialism, segregation, and slave labor, and each of the tracks comes with a past event or current events that has been going on in the world. For example, the title of the track and album comes from the genocide of Native Americans, which resulted in the loss of a land and population due to tragic events they faced. First Meeting Agreement is about the unjust wars that have happened throughout history. Resurfaced speakers talk about segregation of American history, how they treat Native Americans, and even sample a documentary before the verse starts. Driving to Natchez is a sarcastic song about the vocalist's love living in Natchez, Mississippi. Still, he takes it seriously considering the last part of what happened during the civil rights movement and never forgets what was done to the black community. Are You Still Working at That Cafe is about struggling to work at a minimum wage job and feeling like it's a slave labor for the workers. And BMC discussed the criticism they receive and how the haters want them banned in the hardcore scene, but they will never give up. This album became a landmark in the Screamo genre due to its political message and the extreme screaming employed during the recording process. They went on tour and released their split single with Suicide Nation in 2000. Pat Crowley left the band and added new bassist Keith Miller to finish the tour, but he also left, and they added Chris Story to record their second album. In 2001, they released their second album, Syncopated Synthetic Laments for Love. The sound quality of this album is so much better than their last album, and it is their best one. I'm not saying their last album is bad, it's still a great album, but they tend to have their album longer and more emotionally hardcore like The Rise of Spring. This album is almost similar to their first one, but it contains different political topics from the previous one and focuses on their mental health. It uses more clean singing which Matt completely sound like Jeff Wrigley, and it was revolutionary at the time. It also utilizes a greater sampling of interviews, movie clips, and documentaries. The first track, Circumstantial Evidence, talks about the war on terror and how it negatively affects not only the US government, but also the citizen who has nothing to do with it. Status Symbol is similar to Circumstantial Evidence, but is questioning about the war being divided among people and religion. Fact Nor Fiction discusses American democracy unfolding. Syncopated Synthetic Laments for Love is about the toxicity of religion and the priests. And Highly Enlightened is about religion and their beliefs. We do know the release of the album was post 9/11, as indicated by the first and last tracks, which the last track was the instrumental but ended with a random person keeps on repeating,
"Bush is a dickhead."
While on their second tour for the support of their second album, drummer Scott Batiste left the band and bassist Chris Story was kicked out in 2002, and the new drummer Jose Palafox and bassist Austin Barber joined them. In 2003, they released their split albums with This Machine Kills and Envy. They even collaborated on the song for the last track, which is fantastic. The same year, Jose Palafox left the band and Scott Batiste rejoined the band and began recording their third album. In 2004, they released their third album, We Bury Our Dead Alive. This album has more instrumental tracks and the lyrics are different. Sure, they still have political and social awareness on this album, but it still talks more about their mental health, which the band has faced throughout their career. The album cover is different. It doesn't have the historic artwork or iconic title font. It's just all the members in the band name, Yaphet Kotto. The track We Bury Our Dead Alive is about being a sinner in a religious place that keeps on getting haunted by those people. Pass on the Stairs is about how people blindly believe in the government and never seek the truth of who they really are. Shine of the Day is about depression and hiding your feelings towards others. And the constant ranking is about the lives of world leaders, similar to Shine of the Day, but more aimed at the leaders other than their followers. This album is so underrated. I never get why people don't talk about this album when it comes to their discography. They kind of went more clean singing and released during their peak of the dirt wave emo that no one will hear about them, which sucks for them. But it still holds up and should be on the same praise as their first two albums. Okay, we can know why people don't talk about this album. It's their only album that isn't even on Bandcamp, unless you count their two split albums in their EP. At least this album is the cheapest to buy on Discogs. It's very affordable and I hope it won't be rare in the future. A year later, after the release of We Bury Our Dead Alive, Yaphet Kotto broke up. So what happened to the members of Yaphet Kotto, you may ask? Well, 3 out of the 4 members of this band would later form another band called Savior in 2004, with Austin Barber as a guitarist and vocalist, Scott Battisti as a drummer, and Magdalena as a guitarist. They were a stoner metal band and released numerous albums but haven't been active since 2015, but that doesn't mean they broke up. They're still active. What about Casey Watson? Casey Watson was in numerous bands after Yaphet Kotto and remains in them to this day. He has worked with Mindless Mutant, Never Healed, Look Back and Laugh, Violent Minds, and the Old Firm Casuals. Mark Green, aka Magdalena, although he was part of Savior, was only in Worship and Crucifer before he left the band. He worked with middle-aged queers and the Agnes Party. People have said that he was also in the band 17 Queen and released their album in 2019, but that was their old work before Yaphet Kotto was formed. Scott Battisti will also be in another stoner band, Green and Wood, the most stoner band name I ever heard. Became a drummer for Eyes of Shadow Knight and Persecutor, where he is still active. Austin Barber was a member of a punk band, Obliterations, in 2012. What about the former members who left before they broke up? Chris Story was a former bassist who formed another band a decade later called... Fuck man, I can't even speak Russian. Let me Google translate this. Which translates to Immunity. Jose Palafox was a former drummer in Yaphet Kotto after Scott Battisti left and before rejoining in 2003. He will be a member of Battered Brains in 2007. Luke Clemens, the original drummer, went on to join A Great Defy, Science of Yabra, Old Grove, and Sleep Talker. Pat Crowley, Paul Cameron, and Keith Miller, however, stopped making music after they left the band. Yaphet Kotto became influential in the Screamo genre, and their first 2 albums are now essential. Sure, you're not going to see a lot of people talk about them, but they changed Screamo, which has become to this day more into post-rock influence, and even had clean singing, which was kinda controversial move for them, but has helped influence future bands. Although we may never see them reunite again, which to be honest they kind of did when they formed Saviors, just without Casey. Still, we don't know if Yaphet Kotto can reunite, like how Orchid and Seisha finally reunite 2 decades later after they broke up. The fact that they had 2 guitarists who are also vocalists in that band is amazing, given how much effort they put into their music, and their political awareness helped many listeners understand what was happening at that event. They weren't your average emo or screamo bands, they had actual hardcore music while keeping to the other genre they were doing throughout their career. I forgot to mention where you can listen to this band. Since none of their discographies are available on streaming service, the best way to listen to them is on YouTube or Bandcamp. If you want to own their music physically, their final records are available for all 3 albums, however I'm not sure about the CD versions. And this was the story of Yaphet Kotto, the most political screamo band of all time.
Yaphet Kotto is part of No Scene. Enjoy music for what it is, not who it is. And keep punk rock alive.
Put a lot of heart into it, huh?
Yeah, it's all about heart.
Yeah.
If you have no heart, just step aside. Let somebody else take your place.
Thank you so much for watching my video. Consider like and subscribe for more videos to come. I'll see you next time, guys.